Hi, welcome everyone to the February ELPCO meeting, East Liberty Park Community Organization. Sometimes people don't know what it means. We just say ELPCO all the time, so I sometimes have to repeat the actual name of our group. We're one of the official Salt Lake City Community Councils here representing the area basically between Liberty Park and 13th East and between 8th South and 17th South. Nice big rectangle here. Technically, we're not in ELPCO right now, but this is a great meeting space and we really do appreciate the Tracy Aviary helping us out. I'm Jason Stevenson, one of the co-chairs, joined by...
I'm Daryl High.
Great, and we have a couple of board members that are in attendance, so I just wanted to recognize them. We have Christina Robb representing the West of East neighborhood, which might sound confusing, but when you realize it's the area west of East High School, it makes a lot of sense. So that's the way we do it, and appreciate Nancy Phillip being here. She's our 9th and 9th business liaison. Been working a lot in the 9th and 9th area, including some of those improvements you're seeing in front of Hip and Humble on terms of the medians and things like that. Nancy has been very involved in working on sort of getting the 9th South reconstruction fixed a little bit so that we are able to drive and walk safely there. So we'll go into our agenda. We do have a pretty packed agenda, but before we do that, though, I do want to recognize Darin Mano, our Salt Lake City Council member for District 5. He's got a slot on the agenda a little bit later on, but we appreciate you being here. Live in Ballpark, right?
Correct.
Okay, so East Liberty Park is a neighbor to you there, so thanks for coming. But fire department first, so come on over, Station 5. If you don't mind standing right here on this X.
Oh, we got an X.
I promise nothing will fall on you.
Good evening, I'm Captain Chad Umani. I won't take up a lot of your time. In fact, I really don't have a lot for you. The chief's message this month is we were just letting you know, we always take that initiative. We're doing the Clear Air Challenge with the city that we're doing. We have the first, some of the first lead stations in the nation, basically. We have a huge light fleet that is hybrid electric vehicles. And did anyone make it out to the Station 3 electric fire engine? Mm-hmm. See that? Yeah, pretty neat technology, right? It comes with a price tag though, so I don't think we're there yet, but we're definitely going that way. And then I have here also, does anyone have any family members or interested themselves in applying and testing for the fire department jobs? Because I have some things here that you could give them. It's some great information. It tells it you got about another month to sign. So if you know someone or anyone that's interested in looking for a fire career, have them go to slcfire.com right there, and there's a jobs link. They can click on that, and there's a form that they'll fill out. We'll send them all that information, and then they'll be able to test with us. So we are doing kind of official open houses. The next official open house where you can go visit your fire stations, March 7th, Station 8, which is the ballpark station right down there on 13th and Main. That is from 8 to noon, it looks like. So, or sorry, 10 to noon, Station 8. So you can go there. It's kind of an official thing. You're more than welcome to always stop by Station 5, and we'll give you a tour if you have family members that want to see it, or you want to see it and see what we do and what we have. But these are kind of official open houses, just because we're so busy anymore. It seems like at times we're just not available to do those tours. So, is there anything you guys have for me? Any questions? Any concerns? Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So our neighborhood is right behind East High School. So we serve a lot of kids that are from Glendale and Poplar Grove. Mm-hmm. So we really wanted to thank the fire department for coming to the West Side Coalition community event. We had a bunch of kids out there talking, the woman that was talking about jobs, and she was amazing.
Susie Alley, is that who it was?
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome.
So
good.
You could just cut that.
Yeah, I will definitely. That feedback is awesome. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Next on the agenda, we have Detective David King from the Salt Lake City Police Department. We actually kind of have a double agenda item for police and law enforcement, really dealing with the spike in car prowls and vehicle thefts that we've seen in District 5 and particularly in ELPCO over the past couple of weeks. So I asked Detective King and his department to kind of look at that. We have some data and some other things we'll share. But first, let's hear from the police department, because we always do like going to them. They've got the best data and the best insight about what's going on. So please, if you don't mind standing about right there.
All right, Dave King with the police department. Sorry, I have a lot of information. I hope I can remember everything. I got it all jumbled down, but I go over it a lot as far as our crime stats. Have you guys ever gotten on and looked at the crime stats? Okay, I know that you like stats. Who here likes stats? I'm taking a social statistics class at Weaver, and I'm more confused than ever with it. But anyways, we get the stats, and what we have is, like, when you get on there, you can look, and usually what happens is it's going to be maybe a week or two, like a week behind what we're at. So it's going to compare 2 weeks or a week, and it's a little bit behind because usually what happens is the patrol guys will go out, they'll take the call, they'll write the report, it gets sent up to get screened from, or I'm sorry, the sergeants look it over, and then it goes to our records, and they process it, it goes up to our detectives, and then they work as far as getting it screened with the DA's office. Now, it's going to be kind of a fluid thing where I was asked one time to look at why in an area there was high aggravated assaults, and I saw that one of the calls officer had written up where it was a road rage incident and someone threw a cup at somebody. It was written up as an aggravated assault. Well, it probably fit better more with an assault, so stuff like that's going to get changed. It's going to be a little bit fluid, and we do our best to try to keep up with those numbers. And so, looking at those stats, you can find those on our website. That's the you go to slcpd.com, go to open data, and you can go to our ComStat. I've also before talked about our crime reports. Crime reports is a great thing where you can get in, you can look specifically at your area, because if you look at just the regular ComStat, it's going to take in all of District 5, where with the crime reports, you can focus it in specifically on your little area, so you can see what's going on. I found sometimes with the crime stat, because it's a third party, or crime reports, it might be a little bit behind, but they try to do their best because they're keeping up with the information that we're giving them. And again, that information, when you see it, it's going to be a general area because they want to keep everybody safe and not saying, hey, this is exactly where it is if it's a private issue for somebody. So they'll kind of give like the general area, but it's a good way that you can see where all that is and what's going on with it. There's been some emails that we've been going through, talking with some of the chairs and looking at the different stuff that's getting reported. And we've seen it, and I know it's been mentioned that sometimes incidents get reported on social media apps, Nextdoor or something else. And I want to encourage you guys, don't do that, because Nextdoor is not something that we actively monitor. And a lot of the times, unless you are directing something specifically towards me, all I can see is your comments. I can't see any of the conversation at all because Nextdoor doesn't want Big Brother getting involved. So if you have an issue and you need to report it to police, please give us a call. Don't rely on the social media apps. If it's something where you think an officer needs to come out, don't hesitate to give us a call, whether it's the 799-3000 or the 911. Along with that, sometimes we do get a little bit busy and there is a little bit of a time lapse, and so just some of the stuff, if you want to know why we do things, some of the ways we do, if you get onto our website, you go to resources, there's a spot where you can go down and you can get into online reporting. And online reporting, if you have someone that breaks into a car or steals something out of your yard, it is an area that you can get on there and you can actually just file the report that way. Because what will happen is that does get processed over to us, and we do get to use that as part of our data. But it's one of those things where it's not something where you're maybe waiting for us. Now, with that, one of the criteria is that there's no witnesses and no suspects. Because unfortunately, if you have a car that's broken into, unless we have a witness or a suspect, no matter what prints we get, we can't prosecute because we can't. Anyways, it's just some of the legal stuff. And so we have a hard time with that. So usually on a car prowl, if we have no witnesses or no suspect information, we don't come out and process those cars. It's just simply a report. So if that's something that you guys have, you can get on there, you can file the report, you put in your email, and that will email a case or a case number and your report to you so that you have that on file. Just kind of maybe something to kind of help out with you if you don't want to wait for us, or if it meets those criteria, that's an option. But you can give us a call if you'd like. But if you wonder sometimes why police maybe are doing one thing instead of something else, a lot of times it comes down to just the staffing where, like I just said, if we don't have a witness or a suspect, we can't really prosecute those cases. So it just turns out to be a report documented for you. So that is an option, something to think about. Just kind of get in and look at. Getting into some of the stuff. So I was talking with I was talking with the sergeant over property crimes and the sergeant over auto theft, and we're talking about some of the different crimes during the month of December and into maybe the beginning of January. On the numbers, there was an increase where we were having an individual that was going around and stealing cars, burglarizing cars, just causing a lot of issues, that they were able to identify him and they were able to put his information out, and our patrol was able to catch him. And the property crimes sergeant told me that they were able to link at least 30 cases to him. So by reporting, being able to track and be able to try to figure that stuff out is what helps us to be able to put those cases together. So sometimes with not reporting it, maybe there might have been something there we could have connected it, but we need you to call us and let us know, because that helps us know how to put our resources out there.
And when did that stop? With that one individual? What was the?
It was like end of December, beginning of January, right in that time period.
When he was, or the individual
was arrested. Yeah. And so you look at the data, and when you're looking at it, it looks like there's maybe a little bit of an increase, and then it kind of dips off. And the sergeant was saying that once they were able to arrest him, that a lot of those crimes died off. One of the questions that you had asked me is how can citizens help out? So sometimes I guess with right now we have a lot of technology. We have a lot of doorbell cameras. There is another individual that I was told that they're kind of looking at but trying to gain evidence on. And so the sergeant over auto theft has reached out to several people saying, hey, can we look at your Ring doorbell, any information? And she's got 0 replies. So sometimes we'll reach out and try to see what we can do, but you guys are our eyes and ears. You guys are the ones that help us out, and that's some of the stuff that we need to help out with. She was saying that a lot of the stuff that's taken in cars right now is purses and laptops. That's one of the big things they're seeing. I know I've said it before about just keeping stuff out of sight, and that's one thing I'll get back into in just a little bit. For stolen vehicles for 2019, I know we had a lot of vehicles stolen. We had 295 cars stolen that had keys inside of them. That's citywide. We had 101 cars that were stolen that were left running. So far this year, for 2020, from January 1st to date, we've had 62 cars stolen with keys inside, and 31 cars left running.
Everyone's checking their pockets right now to make sure their keys are.
So I've said it before, please, please, please don't leave stuff in cars. One of the things that they've noticed, one of the guys that they did arrest on involving in something else, they arrested him, had a bunch of keys, and what had happened is they were going through doing car prowls, and they took keys out of the cars, documented the address, and came back like a week later and took the car.
Oh, wow.
So they were taking keys. I've taken reports where people have left titles to their vehicles in the cars. Please don't leave titles in there. Just anything of importance, we need to make sure we have that put away. Let's see. At the Liberty Well, you were the one that asked me about Bluetooth, right?
And I think I put it on my list too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So George brought it up in my Liberty Wells about Bluetooth. I've done some research on it, trying to figure some stuff out. And
can you explain maybe what the issue is too? Some people might not be aware.
So there's been reports as far as people walking up to like there's a video on news outlet where they're walking up to houses and having some kind of machine that grabs codes and they're able to unlock doors. And the technology, I guess, is out there. I've tried doing some Google searches, and I was having a hard time really finding some of that technology. So far in Salt Lake, we've not had any documented cases of Bluetooth or Wi-Fi being used to connect.
Like canyons.
What's that?
They're using it on the canyons when you're parking for hiking.
Okay.
So there have been a couple of, UPD knows about it.
Okay. So maybe there might have been something there. We just haven't seen anything. A lot of that, I think, is maybe some of that technology, I think, is...
It's in the App Store. You can get an app that says Bluetooth, these are the Bluetooth around you want to connect, etc. But at least it tells you there's a Bluetooth pumping out Bluetooth signals, and that identifies where either a phone or a laptop is. Because if you just close the lid on a laptop, don't shut it down, it still is kicking out Bluetooth.
And that was one thing I never thought about until you brought that up, as far as leaving stuff outside of vehicles, because on my phone I can pull it out and I can check, like if I wanted to airdrop somebody that has another iPhone, I can probably get about, especially when I'm sitting in church or whatever, I probably get about 5 or 6 people that shows the phones. That might be something that people could use to see, just getting on, like I'll be on my phone just walking around. Every time you're going around, your phone's always trying to connect to something. So it's one of those ones where make sure you got passwords on your phones and house internets. I have a Bluetooth, or I'm sorry, I have a wireless controller for my garage door opener. So I can be standing here and I can open it. And I called that company to figure out how it works, just to see just how it works. And basically, when you get it initially to set up, it's used on Bluetooth. But then after you get everything set up, then it's ran off of your Wi-Fi. And so that's one of the reasons that I would say it's important, just to make sure that your home Wi-Fi is locked. It's locked. It's just one of those things where things are becoming so accessible, people can go around and get that. Make sure it's locked. I guess if you got a really good password, if you can't remember it the next day, I'm constantly trying to reset my password because I can't remember what I set it to. But that is one. Having your phone. I've always said, just leave everything out of sight. I never really thought about turning off computers, turning off phones, just to make sure that nobody can walk by with their own phone and see if it connects on your phone. So that's...
Because even if it's hidden in your car, they can still see that there's something in there.
Yeah. Something I never thought about. So I had an idea for that. One of the sources I was saying, this may or may not be extreme, I don't know, one guy was talking about lining his pocket with tin foil so that he has his keys in his pocket. He was also saying, if you have those remotes in your house, put them in tin cans or something, just so that people can't walk up. But again, a lot of that really high-tech stuff, I think I'm not going to say it's not out there. We just haven't seen it here yet. And I think a lot of times people they just take advantage of a situation or an opportunity that's there.
Can I just recommend turn off Bluetooth when you're not using the computer? I mean, the whole issue is I can walk around any place and I can see 6 or 7 Bluetooth signals, and the app just tells you what the signal strength is. So if it's really high, you're walking by a car, the laptop's probably in the car. So that's what the app does, and that's how they're identifying the laptop. But when they go up the canyon, there aren't that many houses around with Bluetooth, so you know if there's a Bluetooth signal in the car next to you, you know there's a laptop or a phone there. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, like I said, I never even thought about that until you brought it up and I started researching and thinking about some of that stuff. Okay.
I could jump into the car prowl issue if you're at a good spot for that.
I was going to say one thing I wanted to hit on really quick, going back to the keys that I forgot to lead out, is one of the problems that we're also having. So like I told you about how many cars that we're having being stolen with keys in them. Very, very hard for our prosecutors to prosecute those. So a lot of times they don't, because the defense is, well, they're just in the car warming up. They didn't know the car was stolen. So that's an issue that we're having with those keys being left in.
But if you see a bunch of car prowls or stolen keys from one person, you should be telling the chairs so they can talk to the DA and have the DA reprioritize prosecution, because they'll do it. I can call the DA and say, this guy's done a lot of crime, and normally you'd let him off on one, but heads up, the community is trying to get him out.
Well, fortunately for us, like when I talked about the ComStats, like when we have our ComStat and everybody sits around and we all go over the numbers, a lot of the times Scott Fisher with the district office or prosecutor's office is actually sitting in there with us, listening to a lot of them. So if we do have some of these repeat offenders that are causing a lot of issues, we'll talk to them and we let them know, hey, we need some help because of this. And so,
like Jason Stevens.
yeah.
Well, that's my other half. All right.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I've got some, I made these pretty charts. Can I show my pretty charts?
Let's see them.
I wanted to go through a little bit of background on what Detective King was talking about in terms of the role that social media plays, but then also how we depend upon the stats and the expertise of the police department in figuring out what's going on. Unfortunately, our people watching at home won't be able to see the charts because they're too bright, but can everyone else see them pretty well right here? About mid-January to early February, we started seeing a lot of social media reports of people having car prowls and car thefts in ELPCO, in District 5 in particular. These are some of the posts on nextdoor.com, some posts on Facebook. Look at that cute dog. That dog wants that truck back. I mean, come on, we got to do something about this. So, and this is interesting because social media can be a good antenna, but it's not a very accurate one, and it's one that doesn't always give us the complete picture. But in this case, it did tell us there was something going on, and led ELPCO and some of the other community councils. I want to call out Amy Hawkins from Ballpark here. Thanks for being here, Amy. I emailed you pretty soon after we saw some of this, and we started talking and trying to figure out, are you seeing something in your community council? Is there something going on? And so what we did is we put up this post in nextdoor.com and said, hey, we seem to be experiencing some sort of spike or increase. Social media is unreliable. We don't want to say there is one, but please let us know if you see something out there. Fill in the reports. We're going to be doing some data analysis, and we'll share it with you. We've got quite a few responses from this. So then what we did is we went to crimereports.com, the website that Detective King mentioned. This is a nice website because it gives you geography, not just listings, but it tells you where these events happened. I isolated for car prowls and car thefts and came up with these or a couple other things like vandalism I couldn't get rid of. That's the spray paint can icon right here. But I was looking for any geographical trend, any spike, any clustering. Then I took the reports that people were emailing and social media contacting us about and overlaid them and started kind of adding in stuff. I put this up on Facebook and it got a lot of people scared. And I didn't intend for that because we put a big disclaimer that said, this is not evidence of a spike. We don't know what this is. We're just trying to show if there's any geographical trends, any clustering. Everyone take a look at this and let us know what we think. And we had a lot of people kind of write back and say, oh, I know about that event, or you missed this event, and things like that. So we got sort of people engaged on this issue. The other thing we shared was Detective King's comment that you leave your keys in your car or you're warming your car up, people are going to steal your car. So don't do that. Some common sense, crime prevention that folks can do. There was really no cluster that we could see here, except that a lot of the events tended to happen on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, especially early in the morning. That was the one thing that we determined. Daryl?
But it is interesting to note that this is 9th and 9th.
That is, yeah.
There's a lot of business. It's also interesting to note that when you look at the chart that Jason put together, the spike was during Sundance Film Festival.
And a lot of these right here are actually theft, so larceny from a store, so not quite larceny from a vehicle.
Is that what those symbols are? I'm sorry, I can't see that.
It's the money bag is larceny from a store.
And what's the other one next to that? It's the graffiti one?
The graffiti one is the pink or purple one, and then this one right here, I'm not quite sure. But it's probably a breaking and entering because it's a house. But we weren't really focused on that. We were just focused on vehicles and cars. That was what we were trying to isolate here. So, the community responded, we got some information, but then we realized we needed to go to the reliable data, which is the ComStat data. And this is what a ComStat report looks like. If you go to Salt Lake City Police Department, you go to the URL right there. If you love statistics, you could spend a lot of fun time there working on this. Because I've highlighted what we tended to look at here, which was larceny, vehicle burglary, and then motor vehicle theft. It gives you the week that you're currently looking at. It's a weekly thing, so there were 13 in this week and 6 in this week. And then it gives you what's really important is the 5-year average, and then the percentage change from that 5-year average. 5-year average is a really good barometer of are we up or are we down? Finding out whether or not there's something going on or we're actually somewhere within the mean of what crime should be. There's also the year-to-date data, which as you get further and further along in the year can be important for determining whether something's going on in any of these type 1 crimes. I think these are all type 1 crimes here on this list. So we took that data, we took 11 weeks of it, and we made these fancy color glossy charts to figure out whether or not there was something going on. It turns out there was, but it wasn't going on in January and February where we thought it was, and it had actually been happening more in December into January. Oops, sorry. There it goes, pop back on. And so what we did is the 5-year average is the line going across, and the bar charts are the current week-to-week measures. So anytime the bar chart goes above the 5-year average line, that's when we're having some sort of spike or something to look at. And there's definitely something going on, and I think, Detective King, you emailed me that the gentleman who you might have traced the 30 of these, I should use the word alleged, right, was arrested around the 15th of January. So somewhere right in this range right here. So there's definitely had been a reaction. There was a decrease from that time. This is vehicle burglaries. This is vehicle thefts right here. And you can see we only really went above the 5-year average in that 1 week or so in mid-January, maybe right around where that gentleman was arrested. But then again, there's time lags on these reports. They're not necessarily always pegged to the week that they're reported in. This data should be looked at probably with one eye closed because it's not exactly accurate by time. But this is a kind of a trend, or at least a story that we can talk about. We used our community and social media to see if there was something going on. We then went back to the data to find out whether there really was something going on. And then we reported this back to our community along with the tips from the police department about ways to actually make yourself less susceptible to this type of crime. And it's funny, I got a call from Chief Brown yesterday because he'd seen this stuff, and Chief Mike Brown from the police department, and he was just wanted to make sure that we were, contacting you and make sure we were working with the police department, because I think he saw this chart and was like, this could get people a little bit too excited without the context and information that we need. And so that's why I think it's important to go to the ComStat data, go to the police department, and actually figure out what's happening. So we appreciate your help in figuring that out, and I hope, we can use this model and this approach a little bit later on if there's other issues that come up, and working with other community councils like Liberty Wells and Ballpark to kind of teamwork on it. So, and Amy, you noticed something as well going on in Ballpark, didn't you?
I did actually, and actually several of our neighbors brought it up on our neighborhood watch web page. We tend to have stolen vehicles deposited in our neighborhood. And we don't know if that's a function of the people who steal them being interested in frequenting some of the establishments in our neighborhood, or if it's just a convenient place to leave the vehicle after it has been used for whatever purposes. I know there was a week where, a 2-week period where I think 3 or 4 were picked up on the same block radius, and that feels like a lot. And I know we brought this up in the last Ballpark meeting, but I suspect folks will come back next week and ask you about it. So,
and it kind of shows how our neighborhoods can be connected and how cars are taken from the Avs or from ELPCO, they end up in Ballpark, but we're all trying to figure out these issues.
I kind of answered a little bit of that. I'm Captain Lewis. I was on your new division commander over here, east side here, and so I'm over 5, 6, and 7. And what we've seen is cars being dropped off near tracks pickup lines. A lot in District 7, just right there at Sugar House, and a lot in the park area. So you think they steal them from the county, they come in, dump them, get on the tracks, and go back to the county. So that's what we're figuring right now. Yeah, but they do come and visit establishments in the area, and then they can get out of here. Yeah. That's what we're figuring. And they're looking at it and trying to figure out. And we do see a lot of that right next to the tracks there.
And are they chopping up those cars, or is it just for fun?
Just transportation and get downtown and get rid of them and get on to the next one. So.
Okay, wow.
Are you finding, so we heard a report that you were finding cars that actually had a lot of stolen items in them. Is that an anomaly?
That usually, no, it's not an anomaly. That's usually what happens. They use those cars to steal things, packages, things like that. So that's not an anomaly. It's pretty common.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
So the way that, so in our neighborhood, we looked at Jason's map, and we noticed that several neighbors weren't on the map during that time. Their cars were broken into, these different sort of things. We reported a few car prowls during that area. So a lot of times what will happen is call the police, and then the police will be busy and they won't necessarily come out. So when does it pop up onto the map? When a call has been made or when a report has been
These
taken?
are going to be report generated. So when an officer responds and they've done the report and then it gets sent up through our system.
Then it pops up onto the map.
This is going to be more of like a reported system.
Right. Okay, so if a neighbor is concerned that their reports are not showing up on that map, what would you suggest?
Have them contact me, because what'll happen is one, I want to see if I can find a case number, see if I can figure out maybe where the disconnect might be.
Right. So we met right, like our little neighborhood met right before this meeting,
Okay.
and they were going to get that information, and we'll just send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, contact me, and then I'll see what I can find, and maybe, I don't know.
Okay. No, it's no.
Because
it's no
sometimes,
problem.
because I get caught up a lot of times too, where maybe I'll be searching and I'm looking for something, and then I realize I just put in the wrong date, and I don't have it in the right date period. So that could be an issue, or I don't know, there may be something else. I have to look at that.
Yeah, it might just, like you said, we kind of live in a difficult area because we're right behind East High School. So we sort of patrol and between student resource officers, and it's worked out really wonderful the last little while. So,
Okay.
But the other question is if we have like a kid who is out in front of my house, who knocks on my door, has had their car broken into, we have we generally have all that video evidence and. But because it's not our car, even though it's happening in our neighborhood, if that parent of that child, for whatever reason, you can guess many reasons why a parent would make a police report. What do we do to make sure that those are captured in this data?
So you're saying that the juvenile had a car that was broken into and the parents don't want to report it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll let you know that we work with a lot of parents whose they're not documented, and their kids attend East High School, and they've been a victim of crime right there in our neighborhood in ELPCO, but they're not going to get the police involved. So what as far as our neighborhood goes, it's crime that's happening in our neighborhood, and we're dealing with those individuals committing the crime on a daily basis, but yet it's not our property. How do we show that up onto the?
Yeah. Can I jump in there? We've heard this from Capitol Hill to Liberty Wells. When people keep getting broken into, they're worried that their insurance rates are going up, and their insurance agents actually telling them, keep reporting these crimes, your insurance rates are going to go up. So they stop reporting.
Just reporting it to the police when the insurance rate goes up.
They don't want the insurance to kick up. That's what's causing part of it.
Especially for young kids.
I think it's about 50% from what I've heard from the community.
Never heard that before. That's interesting.
I don't
It's a
think
gift.
sports with insurance.
No.
Yeah,
Only if you make a claim.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think it's only if you make a claim on that.
Well, I know in Liberty Wells specifically recently, my Capitol Hill knowledge is like 5 years old, but they were broken into in the avenues consistently, and they said, I tried the first time, my insurance went up, so I'm not going to do it. And Liberty Wells, they were specifically told, you can't make any more claims or your insurance is going to go up. And that was an
They're
issue.
contacting their insurance and filing the claim themselves.
Yeah,
So
that's part of it.
do it as the police
But that discouraged them from reporting a crime.
Yeah.
That's what's doing it.
And that may be an issue with it. It's good advice, just don't report it to your insurance. Park, you had a question?
I said one thing about keys and cars. I don't have personal experience. A lot of cars don't have it. I don't know about presidents. My car doesn't have valet key. And so actually, this is what happened to Emerson. The guy was doing it in the first store, so I opened it up and got him up everything, and it's sold with the valet. So that thing was sitting there for a year. I've never used it, never wanted it. Didn't bother to take it out. And it led me to read more about this. It was a enlightening article from a convicted car thief who was put to the jail and rehabilitated. That he talked about 10 things to avoid having your car stolen. He said 80% of the cars he stole, he sold with valet keys. People aren't always conscious of that key sitting in a manual or sitting bottom of the glove box. For sure, we don't use them anymore. Not that we ever used them before. But it can they get in, that's pretty well.
No, some of the stuff that goes on is just absolutely ingenious. I used to work as a firefighter before I did this job, and all of the really cool tools I had to be able to force my way into a house was stuff that the fire service had gotten from people that had been arrested for those crimes. They told us how to break into houses so that we can do our job. There was all sorts of really cool tools you could get in without really doing a whole lot of damage, but it's ingenious, some of the stuff that comes up. Absolutely ingenious. I was going to say something I can't remember now. Anyways, I'll just finish up. And one of the questions you asked as far as how ComStat's used, all of this stuff we look at every 2 weeks. Our administrator, our chiefs, our captains, lieutenants, and some of the sergeants, they all get together and they're looking at it to try to see where we're seeing trends, what's going on. We do it, like I said, we do it every 2 weeks. So please encourage people to call, whether they're documented or not. We still want to help them out.
We just want to know how we get onto the map, and that if we can just find an answer to that question.
I think the answer, Christina, is that the map data is not accurate. It's like 80% accurate, and some of the stuff is misplaced, and some of the stuff doesn't show up. It will never be perfect, and so that's why we look at it with one eye closed as a sort of a representation, but not necessarily accurate. The ComStat data is much more accurate, and that's what you use when you're actually trying to figure out where the trends are. The map is for illustration and for geographical trends, but not for actually finding your crime on a map, because it will never happen, and you'll probably go crazy trying to actually try to make it 100%. So,
Or use it as a sleep aid.
right?
Or use it as a sleep aid.
Right. Yeah.
So, I know what I was going to say. So, a couple of years ago, they put us through a training called SEPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, where we're going through businesses, residents, and being able to try to give advice on maybe how to help you not be victims of stuff. And so, if you have issues with your house or property, give me a call. Come out and we can walk around. I can talk with you and give you ideas and tips. Maybe there might not be a whole lot we can do. Maybe there might be a couple tips here or there. Sometimes it's lighting. Sometimes it's just gardening, keeping stuff pruned away from windows and stuff. But if you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. We can meet up and go over some of that stuff.
And your contact information is on the back of the agenda. So it's a good way to reach Detective Kelly.
Yep.
I don't want to delay your schedule. If you don't have time for a question.
No, go ahead, please.
Can you tell us anything more about the stabbing that occurred on 7th East and 9th South earlier this week?
Could you repeat the question? Too?
So the question was about the incident that occurred where there was a stabbing, and I think that as far as that goes, it looked like there was some kind of an issue with somebody in the street blocking traffic, and the person got out and was stabbed, and they came in the park. We're still, when I was looking over some of the stuff, I think we're still looking for him. We just had that suspect description that was given out on the news, but it's still an active case that we're trying to figure out.
Speaking of which, what about that car collision on 13th South and 9th East where one of the occupants of the car ran away? It was loose in my
The
neighborhood.
fugitive
It was about a week and a half ago.
that ran.
He
The woman
was-
was arrested.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Darin, do you mind stepping over here? Yeah.
I was outside working on my rafting trailer, and I was all of a sudden a bunch of police cars, like in excess of a dozen, flooded the neighborhood. And I was politely invited to go in my house. And correct me if I'm wrong, there was a chase that started in Mill Creek. They ran into a car on 9th East and 13th South, leapt out of the car, started racing into our neighborhood, and at that point they apprehended the girl. They never apprehended the guy, but they did publish the next day in the paper his bright, cheery face and said, if you've seen him, let us know where he's at.
But I haven't heard anything since. I wonder if he was captured or.
That was a unified police department so we have their own handle.
There was one unified car and a whole bunch of Salt Lake police cars.
They initially had first
Fugitives.
I was quite excited.
I think we're good. Is that all right?
Yep.
Because based on this conversation, all of your insurance rates have gone up 15% since we started. Sorry about that.
Okay. Anything else? Feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any questions.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Just want to move through our agenda. Do you have any more notes? Or
No, we're ready to introduce that.
Okay. I want to introduce Darin Mano, the new council member for District 5 here in Salt Lake City. This might be your first ELPCO meeting.
My first ELPCO meeting.
All right. We won't make you do the ritual. Don't worry.
Oh, I want to do it.
But yeah, take it away, Darin. Thanks for being here.
Okay, well, my time expired 4 minutes ago, so I'll go very fast. My name is Darin Mano. I am from the Ballpark neighborhood. Amy and I have been serving on that Ballpark Community Council board for several years. I'm an architect by training, and I have taught and studied urban design. My sort of community service started with Ballpark Community Council, and then I was on the Redevelopment Advisory Committee for a couple of years, and Planning Commission for about 6 months, until last month when I became the District 5 City Council representative. So I come into this from an urban planning lens and an urban design lens, and I'm really interested in ways that the city can sort of grow as a city and develop. We have a lot of development in this part of the city too, and making sure that that happens in a way that is cohesive, but that supports goals of urban, of affordable housing and walkability and things like that. So that's why I got interested in this work. And there's a lot of things that are coming up in front of the council that if anyone has questions on, I'm happy to answer if I know the answer. I know George has a lot of questions, but there's a lot of things like...
I just want to know where the parking issue is going to go.
It hasn't been transmitted to us yet, so it's not within the council yet. It's still in the administration's hands. Unless it's happened in the last 12 hours, because I might have missed it in that case.
The only reason I bring up parking is because this group sued the city on parking. So
right, yeah, Jason talked to me about that. Yeah, so there is a big overhaul of the parking ordinance that we saw as a planning commission a couple months ago. It's still, I think, being worked through by the planning staff, and then it should get to the council at some point. It changes things. I actually found out, George, that there's some places where it makes parking greater. So there's actually, it's not all a reduction. It's just a kind of an overhaul of that. Simplification, I think, is part of what they're trying to do. But I don't know that George doesn't think it's more simple. That's
more complicated.
There's some other things that are happening. We looked at like the form-based urban 3 zone, which is going to be applied to the Fleet Block, a little further west of here. That's a brand new zone that the city's creating. So there's a lot of those bigger things, and then obviously there's individual projects that are seeking rezoning. What other questions though? Oh, one thing I did want to report that last month, a few weeks ago, we had a council retreat, which sounds a lot more luxurious than it really was. But we met in a room in City Hall with the City Council, and the mayor came, and we just had a big discussion about what everyone's goals were for the next year, what people wanted to focus on. And what I want to report from that is that there's a surprising amount of cohesion in City Hall right now. The council and the mayor really all have a lot of overlapping goals. And it's a collaborative atmosphere right now, which is not something that's always the case. So we're really grateful for that right now. And I think we can get quite a bit done this year. So what I've been telling people is if there's something that you think, hey, we really need to work on this within the city, if it aligns with the mayor's goals, it aligns with the council's goals, and it's something that really makes sense, now's the time to get those things done, because right now is the time when I think the administration and the council can really work together to push some things forward. So I think it's really important and really exciting right now. What other questions? Yes?
How are we going to absorb all the people and cars that are going to occupy all the millions of apartment buildings that are built?
How are we going to absorb all the apartment buildings? I actually think...
People and cars.
Oh. Yeah, so I mean, the city's urbanizing. There's no way around that. We're getting more dense. I hope that we're building an infrastructure that is less car dependent. I think that's something that is going to take a lot of time, and there's going to be a transition period. But if you look at the really big picture, I just really hope that our public transportation and our walkability grows to the point that people don't all need a car, or if they do, they don't need 2 or 3 cars per family. They can get away with fewer. So it's going to be something that continues to grow until we get to the point where really we are a city that not everybody needs to drive everywhere. But I do think, I look at it from a perspective of we have, for me, a really big thing, and this is something I think most of the council, I won't speak for the rest of them, but I think most of the council and the mayor really care about is like affordable housing. School teachers that teach our students cannot afford to live in this city, which is unjust if you ask me. So I think that we have to keep building housing, and we just have to be smart about making sure that we aren't putting too much of a burden on the existing infrastructure. It's a difficult problem though, and I don't have a clear, one sentence answer to that.
I know there's a lot of high-end housing going up, and there's a lot of affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing for anybody in the middle. And they don't qualify for affordable housing, they can't afford the high end. And I just don't understand why they don't build things for the people that say make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000.
So the problem is there's 2 tracks when you're building housing. You're either building market housing, and if you're a private developer that owns private land and is not asking for government assistance with your project, then you're going to build market rate housing, and unfortunately it's going to sell for whatever the market is selling for right now. And then the affordable housing that the government is participating in is more deeply affordable typically. I mean, if you talk to the housing authority, there's all these different levels of
so my daughter, who's a nurse, is supposed to move to Tooele or what?
It's exactly, yeah. I completely agree with that sentiment. It's really unfortunate.
I bet nobody's doing anything to try to address that.
Well, there's no specific thing. I think there's a lot of people doing a lot of things to try and address that. There's no government program that I know of right now that's specifically targeting. So if you look at area median income, so like what is qualified as the poverty level or what qualifies for government assistance, it's pretty low. Like to qualify for assistance, you could be well above the AMI and still be struggling to make ends meet. So I think it's figuring out all of that data and how the government can start to support those. I think right now we're not even supporting the people that are below the poverty level or the AMI. So we have such a long ways to go. I really wish that we had a better answer for that. Yes?
I really appreciate the City Council's efforts to enable ADUs to be built citywide. I think in effect this will kind of compete with these kind of mega apartment buildings that come in and put more housing stock online for the missing middle. So thank you. I appreciate the work.
And that was all done before I was on the council, so I can't take credit for that. But I do think, especially in our neighborhoods here, ADUs are a good tool to help bring some density in a way that's not overwhelming, requires on-site parking and things like that. So hopefully those, if you don't know, an ADU is accessory dwelling unit, so like a mother-in-law apartment that you can put on your property, in your house or behind it. I think there's more we can do with that ordinance as well, especially addressing like where ADUs front on an alleyway and how to make that so that the ADU participates in helping make the alleyway safer and things like that. So I think there's some room for improvement with that ordinance even further. Luckily, the council, when they put that in, required that it comes back to the council after a year for review. So I will get a chance to help review that. So if anyone has thoughts on the ADU ordinance, please here and then there. And Jason, cut me off whenever you need me to.
Yeah, let's keep going. I just wondered, my neighbor put one in over his garage. It's the size of a small house. I mean, or a large house actually. But the entrance to it is right off the alley, and I'm wondering, what's the address of that? And if he has a pizza delivered.
Yeah, I think that I actually don't know 100%, but I think it's the same address because it's the same parcel. And it's not technically an added unit of density. So it's actually part of that house. It'd be like the same address, unit A and B probably, is what I imagine they do. But they don't get a new, they don't subdivide. So it's one parcel. So at least on the county assessor site.
Address with an A on it or something?
I imagine that's how you do it. You do like unit B for the ADU or something.
You can't even deliver a pizza.
Yeah.
When are you going to start maintaining the alleyways?
That's a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked that because that's the one thing that I brought up at the council. Well, everyone brought up a lot of things. That's one thing I really do want to work on. The city, it's no secret that the city does not have the money to maintain the alleyways.
Well,
However,
maintain the roads either.
Exactly, yeah. There was a big bond that passed. You all know about that. So we're chipping away at the road issue, but to maintain, we don't even have an estimate of how much it would cost to maintain all the alleyways. I've thought of some ideas, and this is in no way speaking for the council and no way been vetted by planning or anything, but I think that, so you can build a 650 square foot ADU right now anywhere in the city. I think it'd be interesting to look at a tool like if you have an alleyway and you want to maybe build a slightly bigger house there, as long as that house fronts on the alleyway, adds additional lighting, and maybe you contribute to a fund that helps maintain your alleyway, then maybe you can build a little bit larger or something. So a way that the private property owners can help be incentivized to maintain the alleyway, because I don't think I don't see a way that the city can start to maintain all of those alleyways. Or maybe there's a concrete 50-50 program that we had where private property owners could pay half of repairing their sidewalk. And so maybe there's a program like that we can look at. Again, none of those ideas have been vetted, but I'm trying to circle through ideas of how we can start to make the alleyways positive. We have huge city blocks. That's one of the biggest problems, I think, with our urban fabric is that it takes so long to walk from one street to the next. So if those alleyways became, where it was appropriate, little, mid-block crossings that were pleasant and safe, it would be fantastic. We're really far from that.
Can I ask a question about the alleyways? So there's a lot of confusion about who is supposed to maintain the alleyway. So we've been told different things in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Is it, like that we have to maintain our side and halfway through? Like, how does that work? Do you know?
I actually don't know, but that's a good question. I'll look into that.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Isn't the city owned?
It is city-owned property. Yeah.
So the city
your sidewalk is also city-owned property, and you're required to shovel that. So I don't know exactly how the ordinance works. I'll look into that. That's a good question.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. Art, did you have a question?
Daryl, we've bandied about at ELPCO about actually working on alleyways in our neighborhood too, even putting together a fund to kind of target a couple alleyways each year, bring the community together, have like a cleanup effort, and then sort of set up an infrastructure to keep it going. I know that's been an issue we focused on.
We did that about 10, 12 years ago as an ELPCO council, very successful.
Yeah. So
one thing, the reason why I think it's a good time to figure out the alleyway issue is because the mayor cares a lot about the alleyways as well. So when I brought it up at the council retreat, she bounced back and said, I'm so excited that you are interested in alleyways. There's all these things, and this is something that I need to do some research on because there's a lot of other cities throughout the world where they have figured it out. So that's on me to do a little bit of research about what would be appropriate in Salt Lake City. Yeah, Amy.
Darin, just hearing that the mayor is very excited about alleyways, could you comment in general, not specifically representing the views of the council, but if somebody were to be mounting an effort to close any one particular alleyway, would you
wonder why you're asking about that.
remark on whether it's not my alleyway,
yeah.
but I cautioned folks' optimism about this situation. Should I still be cautioning their optimism?
I think that I do think that there's been a push to try and slow that down of vacating alleyways. That's what I've heard, sort of off the cuff, not in any official capacity. So I think the city doesn't, at least the planning department doesn't want to keep doing that. It's hard to say. I mean, the residents.
Case by case basis.
Yeah, it's a case by case basis. The residents also have really valid concerns about the city not maintaining our alleyways. There's no way around that. So I think I actually don't know. I'm really interested to see how that one will get through planning commission and at what point it'll get to us. So
Me too.
I don't think it's a slam dunk though. I think it'll be an uphill battle for that. Yeah.
Going back to the alleyways, they built a building, well, the building was already built, they remodeled the building next door to us.
Okay.
There were 6 parking places, now there's 2.
Is it a commercial building?
It's a commercial building. There is one for handicapped, and there is one that is parallel parking for regular cars. Continually, we have cars parking there at a 45-degree angle. You can't get out of our garage because of that. Their trash is way above your can.
So a lot of these might be compliance issues actually, which is interesting that we have compliance here to talk about a lot of those things. So if your neighbors are actually, violating ordinances, there are, like, it wouldn't be a police issue probably, but if there's...
Well, you call them parking enforcement, and they do nothing.
Well,
Compliance.
We have
parking enforcement here, so hopefully we can address that concern.
Connections and solving problems. Darin, we probably do want to wrap it up because we have 2 more presentations.
I left some cards back here, and I'll be here till the end of the meeting.
Gotcha. And your contact information is on the back of the back of the agenda. So
thank you.
I'll pick up a card right here.
That's actually.
Oh, that's. So thank you for coming. Welcome to ELPCO.
Thank you.
Okay, we are a little behind schedule. I apologize. We had to drive up our insurance rates quite a bit with our crime discussion. But we have the Citizens Climate Lobby next on the agenda. We have Tom Moyer. Good to see you, Tom. It's been a couple of years since we've been together. And Margie as well. Margie? Do you guys mind coming up here and giving us your presentation about your organization? So,
I'm going to let Margie go first.
Okay, right there on the X, if you don't mind.
Hello. So, how many folks here have heard of Citizens Climate Lobby?
Do you mind standing right there? That way the
Thank you.
Okay. I'm here to talk to you folks about Citizens Climate Lobby, or we call it CCL, the acronym, just to be a little quicker. So CCL is an international, it's about 10 years old, and it has grown in that 10 years to be an international organization with chapters on every continent. And in the United States, there are about 500 chapters, and we're really lucky to have an active chapter right here in Salt Lake City. And I wanted to explain a little bit about it to my neighbors because I think it's just such a fabulous organization. I got involved about 5 years ago because I was pretty despondent about the reality of climate change and the fact that a lot of people in our government, even then, especially in Utah, weren't giving it the kind of gravity that I felt that it deserved. And I thought, well, okay, I've traded out all my light bulbs, and what else can I do? And so I heard about Citizens Climate Lobby, and I went to my first meeting, and I was immediately impressed with the people who belong to the organization. They're smart, they're respectful, they're interesting, they're supportive, and then as I began to learn more about it, I also appreciated the fact that they have a single focus, which is carbon fee and dividend. So they believe, and also many of the most prominent economists in the United States today believe that a carbon tax is the best way to quickly reduce the amount of greenhouse emissions in the atmosphere. So Citizen Climate Lobby works tirelessly toward a carbon fee and dividend plan. And the good part about the plan is that So a fee is levied on carbon at its source, the mine, the wellhead, the port, and then all those collected fees are returned to Americans in a monthly or a quarterly check. And the estimates are that a family of four would receive about $4,000 a year. So it's a substantial amount of money that would come into each household. And right now there's a bill before Congress. So we have all these Republicans who support it, but none of them are in Congress. There's a they call it a bipartisan bill. It's called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, HR 763, and it has 80 co-sponsors right now, only one Republican. So I think this gives us all in this room an opportunity, because we have none of our representatives in our congressional representatives have become co-sponsors. And I don't know if you folks are all in District 2, Chris Stewart's district. If you're in the neighborhood, you are. But we have a calling plan where once a month, each person who signed up for the calling plan calls Chris Stewart's office and talks about why we feel that climate change is important, and ask him to support HR 763. And in the years that I've been working for CCL, I've had the opportunity, one of my interests was to learn how to lobby, and CCL is great at training you for whatever you want to do. So if you're interested in lobbying, they'll give you extensive training on how to talk to your legislator, and then they'll send you with an experienced team to meet your legislator. And in the 5 years that I've been meeting with Chris Stewart, he has gone from being a complete climate denier to saying that he is actually interested in learning more about it and is open to it now. And he said that this is almost completely because of Citizens Climate Lobby. So I feel that it's a very valuable organization to be part of. It's wonderful to be in a community of people who it's a very diverse community. I go to a meeting, it's all ages, all persuasions, Republicans, Democrats, LDS, non-LDS, young, old, but everyone's on this common cause of wanting to work with the climate, and it's just a great experience. And they have niches for everybody. If you like to write, they have a writer's team. If you want to write a letter to the editor or an op-ed, there's a group of editors who will work with your piece to make sure you have the best opportunity to be published. If you want to lobby, you'll be trained. If you'd like to ski, you can go up to the ski area and ask them to endorse the Carbon Fee and Dividend Act. There's just a lot of opportunities for everyone. So I have a handout that I wanted to pass around.
I can help with that.
Okay. This is a handout on the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, so you can read about it a little bit. And if you agree that it's something that you feel you'd like to talk to Chris Stewart or whoever your representative's office is, just give them a call, let them know you're a constituent, and tell them why you think this is important. And I really appreciate you folks' interest and your help.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to just wrap this up a little bit with wanting to give you all a little bit of hope specific to Utah. It's pretty easy on this topic to not have hope. When we look at the national scene, it looks like nothing is going on. And I want to impress on you all how fast the politics of this issue are changing right now. 10 years ago, you couldn't even talk about this issue. It was a Democrat-only issue, anybody working on it. Right now, John Curtis is doing a weekly climate chat on Twitter and Facebook, and he's breaking the ice with his constituents, teaching everybody about the issue and paving the way towards actually doing more legislatively. Mitt Romney is actively talking about carbon pricing every town hall he goes to. And last week, there was an op-ed in the Salt Lake Tribune by 6 members of a group called Young Conservatives for Carbon Dividends. They're all Utah College Republican chapter leads, advocating for essentially the same policy we're advocating for. So things are changing rapidly. and especially among young people, if you poll young people, like Republicans under 40 and Democrats under 40, they poll identically on climate change. And that means pretty soon the old people are going to listen to them. Yeah.
Why aren't you fighting SB 150, which keeps the price for registration of electric vehicles high?
I would absolutely love to subsidize electric vehicles.
Nobody spoke against it. SB 150.
We're working on several pieces of legislation at the state level. 2 years ago, Utah became the first red state in the country to pass a climate resolution. Last year, we passed HB 411, which lets municipalities opt into 100% renewable electricity from Rocky Mountain Power. They thought at the time they were passing that for 3 municipalities, Salt Lake City, Park City, and Summit County. By the time we were done at the deadline, December 31st last year, we had 24 municipalities signed on, including Salt Lake City, including Salt Lake County. So.
And Canal.
I don't remember. No, I don't mean Canal. Springville.
Okay.
Springville and a couple others in southern Utah. Yeah. Orem signed on. Colville signed on. So. Yeah, things are happening fast. So anyway, we'd love to have you involved in CCL. And yes, I'd love to move. Actually, the legislature is this year devoting a significant amount of money to electric vehicle infrastructure. So
yes, the charging station.
Exactly.
But at
which
the
is
same
going
time,
to, it's going to help.
Put a roadblock in.
I wish we'd go faster. I wish we'd do more. But that is probably one of the best clean energy bills going on this year.
I agree with you.
Tom,
yeah.
Mark, thank you very much. We've got your website right up there, citizensclimatelobby.org. I signed up for your emails when we first met a couple of years ago. I really appreciate how you guys work both on the state and local level. So thanks for reaching out and coming by and telling us about your work.
Thank you.
All right, Allison, thank you for being so patient from the Compliance Division of Salt Lake City. And you requested to talk to us about parking, but maybe are there other things you can talk about as well, or just parking?
Yes, there's a few things. Thank you. My name's Allison. I'm one of the field supervisors for Salt Lake City's Compliance Division. And I've just been going to different community council meetings to let you know that we're here, and we're here to help. Please give us a call. I'll talk with you about your specific concerns after, but we have officers in the field Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday from 7 to 3. So please give us a call, send us an email, or use the mobile app. We received and responded to over 13,000 calls last year. So please let us know if you see something. Like with the police department, you're our eyes and ears when we can't be there. One of the other main things that we work with is crossing guards, and we're still looking for crossing guards. So if you or anyone you know is interested in being a crossing guard, I have some flyers here. It's $13 an hour, and you also get a UTA pass. So if you're interested in doing that, please let us know. I do have some flyers with our contact information as well as business cards. If you're interested, I can give you one. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
We have an audience online. We'll put this video up. So you can tell us that contact information. That way we'll know what to do. And this is for parking or for anything, right?
This is mainly for parking related issues, or we also address artists and entertainers. So if you see any artists or entertainers, like within here, especially on Sundays in Liberty Park when the weather starts getting warm, I know we get quite a few of those, so please let us know.
So if their music's bad, you call you?
Not that, unfortunately, no. I had another community council meeting. She said, "What if I don't like the music?" I said, "Well, I'm sorry." Also, idling calls, we respond to those too.
Is it
so
permitting?
It's
Is that the artist and entertainment issue?
Permitting, making sure that there's permits.
Right.
We can address that.
I'm going to be here after the meeting.
Yes, I can stay after the meeting. But if you want to get a hold of us via phone, it's 801-535-6628. Or email is slcparking@slcgov.com. So I know you guys are behind in your agenda, so I can open it up for questions, or you could just see me after. That would be the
open up the questions.
The best.
Okay. Anybody got some burning parking questions? This is ELPCO, so we know you do, right?
I mean, really, in the city generally.
Maybe I can start off with you're parking on the street. How long can you leave your car there before you have to move it? Before it's out of compliance.
Yes, that's part of our Streets for Storage ordinance, and it's 48 hours. So you need to be moving your vehicle every 48 hours. And if there is like that ordinance or a specific one you'd like me to come back and give more of a comprehensive presentation on, let me know. But yeah, it's 48 hours. If you see a vehicle in your neighborhood that's been parked for longer than that, give us a call and we'll come put a notice on it.
Although make sure it's not your vehicle.
Yes, make sure it's not yours.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So we live in a resident parking zone, you know, we buy the permits and stuff, and we have student parking. So we love you guys, right? We just can't be more happy, but we keep hearing from parking enforcement that they need a little support with maybe their higher ups because you can't get around to all the places that need parking enforcement in day. Have you seen it improve at all, or is it something that we should still try to pursue from a community council?
We are more fully staffed now than we have been in a while. We have a bunch of really great new officers, so that should have improved. But I heard where you live, and so I can mention it to our day crew to try to.
But like I said, we love you guys. We think you do your best. It's just a hard job,
thank
so
you.
we're not going to. But the other question I have is that we live on a street right behind East High School where there is a lot of dump cars along there. But we have this new, I can't remember the app, where people rent a car from private citizens. Do you guys, I don't remember that now.
Something about that.
Right, so we're becoming a parking lot for the people who just like are parking their cars there and picking them up. Is that something that we should call you guys to talk about? Or it's just kind of weird. It's popped on the scene, but there's like sometimes dozens of cars lined up where people are coming to park.
That's interesting.
Is that y'all or who?
Yeah, I will bring that back and talk with my director because that's something I don't think that has been on our radar because it's rather new. But especially in that RPP zone, let us know because
and they're not our neighbors. Like we identify. So Jason, do you know what that app is called?
I don't remember, but there was an issue at Salt Lake City Airport about that app.
Interesting.
About that being. But we'll do some research and it's interesting how.
Yeah, that's it. That's it right there, Turo.
Yes, Turo. T-U-R-O, right? Yeah.
So it'd be interesting if they were like our neighbors who are renting out their cars, but they're nobody knows who is owning the cars.
That's interesting.
Maybe that's the vehicle theft issue, right?
Unfortunately, it's not. But it could be.
I just found the keys.
The tourists are great. They're renting cars, but it's starting to become like literally a
drop off.
Yeah, and so some of the cars are super nice, and there's no lighting, and that definitely attracts people. People are very interested why we're getting these really nice cars.
Any other questions for Allison?
I actually have one.
Yeah.
During the winter, I kind of hate when people park on the street in front of my house when there's a snowstorm coming because then the plows can't get across.
Excuse me.
Is that something that could ever be regulated?
That's not something we can regulate. As long as they're parked in a legal parking spot, it is a public right of way, so they can park there. That could potentially be something Darin and the city council could talk about. I know growing up in Buffalo, we had to move from side to side.
Yeah,
and snow emergencies as well, right?
Yeah, and then we had issues as far as that goes. But if it's just a regular snowstorm, unfortunately.
I missed your question. It was.
Well, like during the winter when there's a big snowstorm and somebody parks in front of my house, the plows can't get out near me. And I just kind of wish that there would be something where you could kind of get people to. I've even offered to let people park in my driveway if they just won't park in front of my house, but nobody's taking me up on that.
Yeah, I know other cities do like one day a week, and you have to move your car, and it'll get cleaned and plowed.
Like every other day, you can start on one side of the street and.
Well, the other side of the street you can't park on at all.
No. Yeah, I'll look into that. I don't think that there's any ordinance right now that requires.
I know there
their
isn't, but
car
it's
for
just,
snow. Yeah.
it makes it hard when you've got that much snow. I mean, yeah.
And you're not the first one
We've
that
had
has
some
asked
really
that.
big snow days this year,
Yeah.
so we got that.
But thank you. I don't have a better answer for you though.
Cool, are we good?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Allison. Your contact information's up there.
Yes.
Appreciate you staying around after the meeting. We'll be wrapping up pretty shortly. We have one more presentation for tonight, and that is Tim Cosgrove from the Salt Lake City Mayor's Office. Thank you, Tim, for being our cleanup hitter.
All right.
For ELPCO in February.
Thank you. Nice to be with you. Tim Cosgrove, Community Liaison for Mayor Erin Mindenhall. She brings you greetings, salutations. She's been working very hard on the transition, jumping to warp speed. I rarely get to see her because she's in meeting after meeting after meeting. There's a lot to learn, a lot to get briefings on from the different departments and divisions within the city, making sure that we're providing the best efficient services that we can provide to you. With that, she is holding what she calls office hours, where you can sign up at mayor.schedule.slcgov.com to talk with the mayor for 5 to 10 minutes and bring your priorities to her. She wants to hear from you. She's very passionate about serving the people of Salt Lake and wants to hear what your priorities are. She's got her next date scheduled for Tuesday, March 10th at City Hall from 5 to 7, and March 21st at the Corinne and Jack Suite Library Saturday. It's on a Saturday from 11 to 1. So if you have times available that you're available within those times, you can sign up and go and talk with the mayor and share with her your priorities.
Could you give that email address again?
And actually, Jason actually put the link on the newsletter.
Oh, he did, okay.
So
Yeah, on the latest ELPCO newsletter, there's a list of all the different open hours, office hours, right? Is that
yeah,
what
you
you're
just
saying?
click on the link and it goes to the press release and it's all listed right there. But it's March 10th and from 5 to 7 and March 21st from 11 to 1.
You mind just saying it one more time since I started writing?
Which part?
The link, I mean the...
Oh, the link
web.
is mayor's. It's mayor.schedule@slcgov.com. mayor.schedule@slcgov.com. Tuesday, March 2nd is the mayor's State of the City address. So if you're all invited, if you want to come out and hear, the mayor's going to share our financial condition, some of the major updates on the major projects that we're taking on as a city, the airport, the water reclamation center, inland port. But you're all welcome. It's going to be at Meadowlark Elementary School. The easiest way for me to explain it, well, it's 497 North Morton Drive. 497 North Morton Drive. So if you just go out 5th North and go to about 22,000 West, it's right there. But you're all welcome to join. It's 6:30, March 2nd, Tuesday. She'll be sharing a lot more information there. And I have to throw out an accolade to our new council member, Mano. He's been so great already. I've already met with him a couple of times, and we shared ideas and working together, collaborating. So there is a lot of collaboration going on, and it's so nice because he's so accessible. I just have to share that with all of you how great and how accessible he's been already. And that means a lot to me too. So, okay. And then I was going to give a brief update. The legislative session ends March 14th, March 12th, Thursday. Sign and die. Thank you. And we're watching a few bills. You can get on the mayor's website and click on that link to see. There's a paragraph explanation on several of the bills, and then we have a bill watch sheet that shows the number of bills entirety that we're watching. I know an important one that I've been following is Senate Bill 39. It passed the Senate yesterday. It's on affordable housing. We're hoping to get some of that funding to the city. It's statewide. This is what the bill sheet looks like. And I don't know, I could go to Jason did. If you haven't read the newsletter yet, I don't know how many hours in a day he has, more than I have, but somehow he either doesn't sleep or
he's a master.
But if you read this newsletter, he's got a lot of good information on there. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I looked at your bill list, or the mayor's bill list. It's got about 50 bills you're tracking, so it's pretty impressive. We highlighted a couple in the ELPCO newsletter. If you don't get the newsletter, it's actually a QR code on the sign-up sheet that you can scan with your phone and you'll be automatically signed up, or just go to our Facebook page. We send it out twice a month on the second and fourth Monday of the month. But we've highlighted a couple bills. The one that I wanted to bring up, though, was the inland port modifications bill, which I was at the Capitol today and heard a presentation from Lynn Pace, who is the mayor's chief lobbyist up at the Capitol. And basically the city and the legislature worked pretty closely together to get a bill together that gives the city a little bit of what they've wanted all this time. And so just as a quick summary of that, it takes the tax increment funding, basically the tax money that the new development would raise out in the inland port area. Instead of the state getting 100% of it, they're going to give 25% of that back to the city. So it gives a little bit more of a traditional TIF or tax increment funding setup. That's usually how those work. So a bit of a gain for the city there. The mayor gets a board position. Previously, the mayor had been excluded from the Inland Port Board. There had been an airport board representative, and that's how the mayor sort of got some input there. But now Salt Lake City mayor will have a representation on it. And it adds a member, I think, from Magna Township. I think they get added to it as well. But the big thing that was changed was that the state is going to do away with this idea that they can overrule the zoning and land use decisions of the city. So it used to be that there was a trump card the state could lay down, or the inland port card could say, you know, oh, Salt Lake City has this zoning and land use for this, but we want to do something else, so we're just going to wipe it away. So that is going to be changed so that the city does have the authority for land use and zoning for all of that development out there. Lynn Pace, if I can characterize the way he said it, he said, this wasn't everything we asked for, but it's more than we thought we would get going into the session. So, you know, sort of what the idea of a compromise is. That he asked, it was the Democratic caucus, he asked them to support the bill when it gets in front of the House later on. And it's actually House Bill 347 from Representative Francis Gibson, who's one of the main architects of the Inland Port Board. So that's a bill that will have profound implications for Salt Lake. Sort of also shows that there's sort of a new working relationship going on between the legislature and the city, where they're able to reach some kind of compromise. And as Lynn Pace said, it's not everything they wanted, but they're not gonna blow it up. They're gonna work with what they have. So that was pretty important. The housing one, the affordable housing one, Senator Andregg's bill, it's asking for $35 million for affordable housing. They're not sure they're going to get that. They got nothing last year, but there's a lot of hopes that there will be something that will come through with that bill.
There's a big press conference on Monday about affordable housing. Big effort from a bunch of private philanthropers working together with government all the way to
trying to push that bill forward, yeah. And it has a leverage factor from state money and then trying to bring in private money as well.
They're going to announce how much they're
yeah. So that's a big one. Any water bills that are out there? Or
there is a water bill.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't get watered down. Now, that's something we always like to focus on because the legislature loves our watershed and they just want to grab it. So something that we almost don't want to take for granted how much good water we have up in the foothills. So I don't think there's any big threats though from our members.
No, they're just watching them close.
Okay. Cool. Anything else, Tim?
Just the last thing, we updated our Good Neighbor Guide. So with the new administration, we have all the new phone numbers. I know Allison's number in here. Parking compliance is already in here. I'm in here. Graffiti removal, our CRU officers. So I'm gonna just pass this around so that you have the updated Good Neighbor Guide. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I can talk a bit about what we have on tap for the next couple months.
Great.
A March meeting, let me look at it, March 26th, my mom's birthday. That's right in the middle of spring break, so we realize some folks might be away. But we'll have two things on the agenda. First, we'll have the Salt Lake City Airport coming and telling us about the new airport, which will open in September. Brand new terminals, you've probably seen that going up out there. Pretty impressive. They're looking for people to paint 144-foot long murals. So if you have a really long paintbrush, you should apply. That's a big project going on. And then we're also going to have the folks from St. John's CDC, which is the Children's Development Center going in where the old Traces Organic Garden Center was on 11th East. You might have seen they raised all the trees. They're building some buildings. They're renovating one of the old buildings. They are going to replant those trees from what I've heard. They're going to bring them back. But that's a big project going on 11th East. We're going to have them come over and tell us what they expect for that parcel. And then in April, we're having Salt Lake City Planning coming and giving us all a Planning 101. So we're going to walk out of here experts in planning and be able to tell RMF 35 versus something else, which I can't remember. But it's great to have Nick Norris has agreed to come by and get us all up to speed. Darin, you have quite a bit of a planning background. It's good to know all that stuff, right?
And if you want a fun experience, you can go online to the city website and type in zoning map. And it's just amazing how many zones there are in one block within the ELPCO boundaries. So the recent Telegraph issue, the block between 8th East and 9th East, 9th South and 8th South has 7 zones in that one block.
It'll be like the Matrix. It's like where you're walking around and all of a sudden you'll see all the zoning and planning overlays just in front of your
colors
eyes.
and hatching.
That's when you know you've gone too far. So we do have some exciting meetings coming up. We'll have some new stuff in May and June, which we're excited to announce as well once we get those finalized. But that's what we have on tap for the next 2 months. So
on the back of your agendas, we really try and put as many phone numbers as we can on here for contact. Please get hold of whoever you think can help you. Call Jason or myself. Tim Cosgrove is Mayor's Liaison. You can call Tim. He answers his phone and his email. Dave King will answer phone calls. If you don't have the police non-emergency number memorized, you should. That's a great resource. And we
it's actually Daryl's phone number.
Great. And there's actually a fire department non-emergency number as well. So,
my kids and I were talking about that. You know, like when do you call a non-emergency fire? Like, oh, only half the building's on fire. We'll just call the non-emergency number.
When you're really embarrassed about doing something incredibly stupid.
Okay.
Which happens frequently in my life.
I would use that number a lot.
Jason and I met this last week with Darin Mano, and we don't want to short circuit that, but he's invited us as council chairs to meet with him on a regular basis. You're welcome to call Jason and I, but he's approachable. Give him a call, send him an email. He's there to take care of us as Salt Lake City residents. So if we can help, we're happy to do that. And what's the cute lady at parking? Is it Alice?
Allison.
Allison. No, when you call parking enforcement, you get her on the phone.
Vicky?
Vicky, sorry.
Oh, that's how much I call.
She is it is Vicky. She's a delight.
She's lovely.
And I know Tom has said he's experienced frustration that with sometimes parking enforcement being busy, but Vicky is marvelous. And if you have an issue with parking, that's who you'll probably get on the phone. Call her up. She's very patient, and quite quickly the parking enforcement folks will come. And if you're not aware of their technology, when they roll up with that vehicle, they actually have cameras on the tops of those vehicles that will take pictures when someone says, I didn't park in front of Jason's driveway. Well, they can show you where you parked.
They've actually used that on me.
Did they?
I didn't park in front of the driveway. Oh, yeah, I guess I did.
And if you wonder, he's really excited about with all his free time. He wants that parking guard job.
Oh,
Are there any questions that can come before the community council that we can work on?
Just a comment. I know that a lot of people were dumbed down about from our community, and I just think it's wonderful each time I
Cool, thanks.
Take an extra spin just for fun.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And I noticed.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
And you know, it's interesting because last month they came and talked about shaving down that offending.
They did.
It's done.
Yeah, in front of Hip and Humble.
In front of Hip and Humble. So they reacted very quickly.
Did you get that note about the buses during the snowstorm though? We might want to take that up at some point.
Yeah, they got stuck on the hill.
Oh my gosh, because of the every 15-minute now, they were, 10 down and 10 up.
Demolition.
Right.
Wow.
So I mean, I just maybe we should ask so we can talk to neighbors about what to expect from buses and that road is notorious.
Yeah, you couldn't get up the road. Yeah.
So maybe we could just get some information to pass on.
The problem is too many buses moving too fast, right? That's
well, going down.
The down challenge. One quick announcement about the roundabout is that there's a meeting coming up next week that Darin and I are going to go to with some community members about the public art process. There's been 3 finalists that have been selected. There's some representatives of ELPCO in the business district that are going to sort of be an advisory board to that, put on our art caps and think back to 4th grade. No, just kidding. They're just going to tell us what they want to do. But there will be some public art going in later on in 2020 into 2021. So that's going to be an exciting completion right in the middle of the roundabout, that empty space that you've seen there.
And speaking of the discussion about the daycare going in traces, Jeff Larson, who is the East Emerson rep for our community council, and I have started the process of going down 11th East to talk to businesses and involve them in the discussion of our community council meetings.
We call that the 11th Street Corridor Project because we realize we focus so much on 9th South that we're missing 11th East as a major commercial hub in our neighborhood. So we're trying to reach out there.
So if you know business owners, residents, please invite them to come join us as a focus.
I'm so sad that Brownies is just like half a block outside of ELPCO. Otherwise, we would have them here in a heartbeat, presenting and bringing food. So,
I have a question.
Robert, yeah.
What streets are they going to tear up and close this year?
What's next? So 13th East is going to be the big one, coming in from 9th South to 17th South. That's going to start in April or May. We're going to basically lose 13th East for 6 months.
So it'll be closed entirely?
On and off. Yeah, it's going to be much harder to get through. It's kind of like what they did further down on 13th East last year, from 17th South to 21 South. Parts of it get closed entirely. Parts of it are open a little bit. We're trying to create as many liaisons with the engineers and their contractors to make sure we keep up on it. We learned a lot from the first project, especially about utility cutoffs, dust, noise, vibrations, things like that. So we're going to work as well as we can to kind of alleviate those impacts on neighbors. But if you use 13th East for commuting, or it's a lot of people use it to get to schools, we'll definitely start thinking about some alternative routes starting in about May when that will kick off. So.
And the community council was really a source of information because when they did that original closure, they routed some large vehicles down very little streets like McClellan.
And Laird, yeah.
And Laird were really difficult. So some phone calls were made and they changed the routes.
Yeah, because the McClellan Trail was being impacted. People were, not feeling safe on the McClellan Trail. So.
Okay. I think we stand adjourned. Oh, I want to make one point. I'm eminently qualified to go to sound on this art approval.
Oh.
Because I'm colorblind.
Okay. All right.
We are adjourned.
We'll look forward to a black and white public art process.
Okay.
Thank you for all coming. Appreciate your time. Sorry we went over a bit. See you next month.